The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of SFM.
Welcome to Behind the Rack, the podcast where we, Hugo Chavret, Franco Caruso, and myself, Vincent Simino, pull back the curtain on the AV industry. Now, this isn't your typical polished panel. It's a casual, real-world chat where we just talk about the gear we love and sometimes love to complain about the trends shaping pro audio, live sound, broadcast, and system integration, and the lessons we're learning along the way. Now think of it as three AV pros sharing stories, swapping rants, and diving into topics that matter, not just to help listeners get smarter about tech, but to keep ourselves learning too. So whether you're in the booth, the boardroom, AV curious, or behind the rack, there's something here for you. So grab your headphones, pull up a chair, and join us for some honest, sometimes nerdy, always fun conversations, all happening behind the rack.
That was a great intro.
Yeah?
That was
you
the first intro to our first podcast of Behind the Rack.
Well, thank you.
You nailed it, Ben.
Felt good.
Well done.
It felt good anyways.
Well done. To many more.
To many more. Yes, to many more. That's a good start.
It's an excellent start. How did you start in this industry?
That's the question that I get asked a lot. I think you do too.
I get asked a lot. Yeah, and I think we all have some really interesting stories. And that's what's cool about the AV industry. There's no singular path to get here. Everyone has a different story and a different way of how they got into this incredibly fun industry.
Yeah.
And what's even cooler is I don't know Franco a lot. Vince, we spent a lot of time together shooting like promotional material and clips and movies, but I don't know Franco that much, so I suspect I'm going to learn something new from him today.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, yep.
And admittedly, we work in a really cool industry.
Yes.
I have to say,
the coolest industry in the world.
Yeah.
I'll say it.
Yeah. And I think that's where we get asked a lot. It's like, how did you get in, and what does it take to get in? And surprisingly enough, you'll learn probably that just a little bit of work, but
yeah. And sometimes things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's exactly it. Let's start with it. Let's start maybe with the education and school and stuff like that. How did that have an effect in terms of the career path or how you got here? Why don't you kind of take it off?
Yeah, in terms of schooling specifically, no, I had no idea I was going to end up in the AV industry. And there's a couple of things that happened along the way that just kind of made it happen naturally. I actually wanted to go into sciences. Was in sciences in high school, and then quickly realized after my very first chemistry class, there's no way I'm spending the rest of my life doing this. So didn't do that. Went into marketing in CEGEP. Loved it. Had a great time. Always had kind of this inner entrepreneurship spirit and knew I wanted to do something with business. After CEGEP, went into finance at John Molson School of Business, Concordia.
Wow. That's amazing.
And just like my chemistry class, after the very first FINA class, finance class, I was like, I am not doing this for the rest of my life. And switched back into marketing and really enjoyed my time in university and the whole business
you managed
school.
you literally after a week or two you said no?
Oh, same day.
First,
after the first class of that FINA, which is the finance core classes, I was like, I'm not doing this. Yeah. So I think that happened after a semester or two because you had to do your base courses or whatever. My first core finance class, I was like, I'm not doing this. This is not for me, which is fine. And that's what schooling is for, right? It's for realizing what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah.
So I ended up finishing with a Bachelor of Marketing, like I said, from John Molson School of Business. And I think I'm going to save how I got into the AV industry for a little later into the podcast. But a lot of different, even signals, I'll say, that kind of just made me realize, okay, you're going into AV. You love this.
So no specific AV curriculum or...
No technical training, none like that, which I think is very different from you two. I learned the old school way, just by learning, by making a lot of mistakes, unfortunately. learning by myself and eventually leaning on some pros in the industry, using them as mentors. And here I am.
I'm not going to lie. We still make mistakes, and
We still make lots of mistakes.
I'm one who still makes a lot of mistakes.
Like not pressing record on the podcast.
That too. This is about the third time we shoot this version. So I hope you guys enjoy this version.
It's the more polished version.
It's the more, I guess you can tell it's the more polished one.
This is going to be a lot of fun though, boys. I'm excited to be here with you and be talking about this.
And learning more about you guys.
Yeah.
What about you, Hugo?
Yeah.
Schooling wise?
Schooling wise, I did my CEGEP. I did my secondary school, very involved in sports and journalism, and then I went into CEGEP in journalism, as a matter of fact. Didn't finish my collegial diploma. Unfortunately, I only have English and philosophy that I didn't finish, so I only missed 2 courses to get my full diploma. But as you guys know, sometimes in this industry, they're not even looking at diploma. In the meantime, I started to be very interested into electronic music and started to play around with softwares and it's back in 2003 probably. I had my first actually, I was making music on one of my friends' PC with softwares like Fruity Loop, Acid.
I remember Fruity Loops.
Acid. Acid was the name of the software, not what we were taking, by the way.
Allegedly.
And Propeller adds Reason. And Reason is for those who know, it's a software that is probably 20 years old or at least 15 years old. And it's a virtual modular soft synth. So it's a rack that you can turn around to see behind the rack.
I like what you did there. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of these.
Smooth.
Yeah, smooth.
By pressing tab, you could turn a rack and you see all these wires. And those are real virtual wires. So those are real wires that you would see on the synthesizer. And I scratched my head and I said, yeah, I want to know what these wires are for. And I looked online and there was one school that was prominent in terms of music production, computer, sound design. It's called Musique Technique. It still exists in 2025. And funny enough, a lot of people in the industry went through that school. So it's, as I mentioned, it has a good reputation. So I started that course, which was OEC. So it's basically it's a specialized course for a specific topic, which was computer-assisted sound design. So basically, I was taught how to use real synthesizer hardware. There was a lab with real synths like Roland GP8000, Akai S1000 sampler. We were using Cubase as for programming MIDI. We were using Pro Tools to record audio, and funny enough, I was the last year at that specific school who were fortunate enough to record on analog tape. So our final project was recording on a real console.
Wow.
24 tracks into a tape machine, and so we record and we mix live on the console. So
that's cool.
I was fortunate enough to have the true hybrid class, basically. Recording with computers, recording with tape, playing with real hardware, playing with virtual synths. So it was pretty cool. And to this day, I think this is really what got me into that business. This is where I learned about microphone polar pattern. This is where I learned about XLR cables. So this is where I got my core knowledge for that. Call it AV or audio business, pro audio business. This is really the fundamentals and where I learned and when I got even more passionate about it.
Wow.
And when I start, and I'm going to keep also the story on what got me like my first gig and everything, but this is where I did study a computer-assisted sound design.
That's amazing.
Yep.
especially touching the analog and digital right before it kind of changed. I think today we're getting back into the analog stuff.
Yep.
But
Slowly
getting
but surely,
taught, getting taught, it's one thing, like, you know, a lot of analog stuff comes back nowadays, like, you know, like the whole vinyl and stuff like that. But getting taught it, you know, back in the day, I think is really incredible, because I don't think you get much of that today.
No, and having all those toys in that one room just to play with is incredible.
Like compressing a drum with a real compressor plugged and insert on a console. I mean, you don't see this nowadays.
No.
I mean, except in high-end studio, which still have like an SSL or an Eve console with hardware, but those are expensive toys these days.
Yeah.
But it was out of necessity, because that was the only way to actually do these things.
That's right.
Wow.
That's incredible. Really
What about
cool.
you, Vince?
And you, Vince? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Franco, where I started off into something that I thought I was going to be interested in, which was computer science, and I quickly realized, that's not really what I wanted to get into. I think it was a little bit fun at first, and then I got into really, obviously, mathematical, technical, and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's not exactly what I wanted to do. And then I ended up getting kicked out of college for a year, which led me to kind of ponder in terms of what I wanted to do with my life, my career. And at the time, it just so happened that first, I always had a passion for film and stuff like that. But at the time, there was a huge demand for filming in Montreal. So there was a huge demand for it. And I said, why not?
Like the X-Men series were shot here?
Early. I'm talking about early, late 1990s, early 2000s.
Yep.
There was a
I remember,
lot of...
every summer there was something happening.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
You would remember, hey, did you hear this? They're filming this in the old port, or they're doing that.
Yeah. Chances are you'd be walking somewhere in Montreal and there's something that's happening. You'd see a line of trailers somewhere. So I figure, you know what? I think this is a good career path. I think it's a very difficult one. I wasn't naive in terms of thinking that it was going to easy to get into, but I said, let me give it a shot. And a little bit like you, once I got into the program, you got to learn about radio and video production, the film side, animation, and even photography, where we're, exposing and, just taking care of all the film, like the film aspects, the chemicals and chemical reactions and stuff. Yeah, the dark room and all that stuff, which was so much fun. And a little bit like you, I kind of the passion kind of bloomed, sparked and kind of bloomed from there, because that's when I really got into. I think it's that creative side that really like gives you that opportunity to create something from nothing. And
when the ISO was something that's written on a film, and you have to buy a 200 ISO or a 800
exactly
ISO, depending on where you
shoot.
These days it's more like I can change the setting on my digital camera, but at the time you needed to choose the proper film to film that.
Absolutely.
And if you miss, it's going to look like, bad.
Not only did, you're absolutely right, I completely forgot about that, but not only is your film important, but then how you expose it, and then how you develop.
Yeah.
Everything is like, everything can be tweaked. And nowadays with the new iPhones, you just cycle through your filters, and then you can do a black and white or a sepia or whatever, So it was, even creating effects was on the analog world.
I think we're aging ourselves. For the viewers, we're actually all in our 20s. We're all very, very young.
Yeah.
Back in my day,
So that's what, that really helped bloom myself into that, and I'll also keep my my story. But what got you? Was there anything in your childhood that kind of got you there? Where you are today, or
started playing piano. I was about 4 years old, so I was always into music. As I grew, into my early teens, computers obviously became more popular, and I had a natural fascination for computers, and I quickly became the family IT guy, right? Every time something would happen, someone would call me, Franco, how do you do this? How do you do that? And the truth is, I had no idea what I was doing, but I wasn't scared to experiment and try different things. And
as long as it wasn't your stuff.
As long as it wasn't my stuff, yeah. And you'll see that theme is kind of reoccurring throughout my journey. But was super fascinating to computers. I always loved music. And obviously with the computers came digital music. Was ripping my dad's CDs onto the computer. So I had quite a nice collection going. And as I grew older into my, mid-teens, I was always the guy playing the music or responsible for music, whether it be a party, whether it be we're going in a car or something. I would literally carry around with me a cassette to 1/8 inch auxiliary adapter. Wow. Remember with the cord, and you put it in, and the problem with that is a lot of cars, the cassette player didn't work eventually. So then I upgraded to the FM transmitter. Remember those days with the cigarette lighter, and you put it in the 12 volt?
Never had any good...
Never really worked properly.
No. Lots of interference.
Yeah. So then I was like, how do we, we used to go in the car a lot and whatever. And I was like, there has to be a better way of playing music in a car. And quickly dove into car audio. Just by accident, a buddy of mine was like, hey, I want to put a cool radio in my car. And I was like, yeah, I can figure that out. Can't be too hard, right? Take out the dash, rip out the old radio. Quickly realizing I don't know what I'm doing. A bit of research, internet back then, dial up, and start figuring out, okay, you just got to match the colors on the new
YouTube,
wiring kit. No YouTube, barely any YouTube.
That's right.
And so I figured out how to replace radios in cars. Started doing that, which led to subwoofer installations. And again, not knowing what the hell I was doing. Yeah. The difference between wiring two subwoofers in series or parallel and how to pair them with an amp. So yes, we blew some amps and had a lot of fun doing that.
Probably a couple of eardrums at the same time.
A couple of eardrums as well. I mean, my poor parents, literally 3 a.m, we'd finally figure out which wire we didn't wire correctly. And all of a sudden you start hearing the sub and we're having a great old time at 3 a.m, right? So did the whole car audio thing. And it got to the point where it became a lot of fun. We were experimenting. Little radios turned into, remember the DVD players in the car? We could only play the DVDs if you were in park, right? And you needed the park signal wire to say, okay, you're allowed to safely play the DVD. Don't do this at home, kids. But we figured out again through the internet how to build a relay bypass. So we would trick the car into thinking it was in park when it really wasn't. So we were able to play the DVD.
Video in motion.
Or you could have played the DVD while driving if you wanted to do that. Of course, we never
listen to the DVD.
We would listen to the DVD. Yeah, exactly.
You're not watching the DVD. Right? Yeah.
We wouldn't do that. Never. Listen to Tomorrowland, and it was it was a lot of fun doing that. But it was more of a side gig. Again, the entrepreneurship spirit was always in me. I always had little side gigs going. Car audio eventually led into installing some home theater. I could hang a TV. I could wire a speaker. I could figure out a receiver and whatever. So I always did those things on the side. But pairing the whole digital music thing, at one point, and I was always providing the music, literally DJing without even realizing it. My dad was like, hey, why don't you think about DJing and doing this, on the side? It's like, okay, I got the computer. I've got the music library. I love the technology behind it, right? Literally everything from a subwoofer in a trunk to the actual computer. Kind of put it all together and started DJing and did my first wedding when I was 17 years old. I didn't sleep for 3 days before that because I was so nervous.
It's somebody's special day.
It's someone's special day. I never really did it before. And after that gig, which went well, I have to say, I learned from a lot of mentors in the industry. I was literally cabling wires for free at 4 a.m. at a hall in the East End, just to learn the way. How do you coil an XLR cable? Mm-hmm. How do you organize your cases? How do you do that? And literally all for free. And eventually started my own entertainment company, which is still running today. I'm super proud of that. But at that time, my parents wanted me to complete schooling and all that, and they put a lot of pressure on me. And I'm not going to lie, at one point, I was DJing so much, it was very lucrative. I don't need school, it's not important. But I needed the family van to transport all my equipment. And when I say all my equipment, I didn't have a production grade, inventory list. I was using old Nico home theater speakers that my uncle had given me for, Sweet 16s in a basement. It was really rudimentary, but it worked, right? It was a lot of fun. And so they told me you're only allowed to use the family van if you stay in school and if you focus on events. Because I was starting to get into the club scene and it was cool, right? The girls, the drinking, the whatever. And my dad kind of motivated me to stay in the event scene by saying, hey, you can actually make more money doing events. I don't know if he actually knew that back in the day.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, let me go down that path. And that's what led to Caruso Entertainment and working as a DJ for the last 17 years of my life. Yeah.
All founded by the minivan.
All founded by the minivan and the pressure from my parents. And that's what happened. And how I found myself to be at SFM is a funny story too. I brought my CDJ 200s. Remember that Pioneer DJ CDJ 200s?
The gray ones.
My Q button, just like every DJ goes through this, the Q button eventually fails after 1 million presses, which is completely normal. And I had to get them repaired for my next gig. Didn't know what to do. I bought them used, so I never really walked into a store and spoke to an actual authorized dealer. And someone had told me there's a company called SFM in Dorval. Go there. There's a little window in the back. Just drop off your stuff and it'll get repaired. So I show up and shout out to Wayne, who's still here. I drop off my CDJ 200s. Did not know what an RMA was. I had no paperwork. I don't even think I had a credit card back then. Dropped them off. He's like, oh, you need to fill this out, whatever. Dropped them off, got them repaired. And when I came back, I was like, okay, I'm doing university. I don't know what my future is going to look like, but it'd be really cool to stay in the DJ industry, but more at a 9-to-5 level, corporate level during the week. And so I asked him if there was any openings, and he's like, hey, this is the website. Check it out. I don't know what's open, what's not. Knew someone who knew someone, referral, did a couple interviews. And I started off as an assistant brand manager in the MI division.
Nice.
And now I'm here, category manager for Pro and Live. So I stayed in the MI division, became brand manager, went to the Pro Audio side, brand manager there. And now I'm managing the category, which is a lot of fun. And
specifically, even Pioneer.
Yeah. And what's crazy
really
is like,
crazy.
the dream was to work for Pioneer DJ. And this is the closest thing possible in Canada. And now I get to manage Pioneer DJ, Alpha Theta, QSC, Electro Voice, and have a lot of fun with all these brands. So it's crazy how different things happen and get you to where you are.
Did you know this even existed? Like
when I dropped it off, I swear I thought it was a huge building just for repairs. Like I had no idea what a distributor was, what the role was in the supply chain of a business or a brand in Canada.
Yeah.
I had no idea what exclusive distribution was. Like I really had no clue. Even applying for the job, like I was naive about it, like I didn't know what I was going to be doing, what type of brands the company was dealing with at the time, and everything just worked out. Yeah. And here I am 9 years later. So it's a lot of fun. It's cool. And I love what I did. I have no regrets. Made a lot of mistakes. I'm so sorry to all the people I installed bad car audio in, but it worked. It did work.
for people.
But that's how you learn. And I think that's what's so cool about the AV industry is that it's tactile. It's physical. To your point, you got to play with all those amazing instruments in person. I got to play with speaker cable and subwoofers and amps and, positive, negative, as rudimentary and as basic as that is. If I wouldn't have gone through all those steps, I wouldn't know what I'd be doing today, and even playing with different cables, going to those companies at 4 a.m, saying, hey, I want to learn. I want to learn how to run a DJ company. I wouldn't know the difference between, different types of audio cables or video cables, how to organize them, the cases, the selling process. So, always very, like I said, entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Always had that in me. And I'm happy that I was able to marry it with a more corporate side of things. And I still get to have fun on the weekends and please lots of crowds. And I enjoy every single minute of it.
That's amazing.
And I'm lucky for that.
And it's something that they don't always teach you in school, that, there's, if you have a passion for something, there's other avenues except for going directly into that specific thing. You didn't even know, besides outside of the DJ world, that you can actually rep a brand, you can be an ambassador, you can do, all kinds of stuff. And sadly, I don't think, from the little bit I was paying attention in school, they weren't really telling you those different avenues to kind of branch out, saying there are other things that tie into that industry without having to be directly. You kind of
very straight and narrow path, and this is how you do it.
That's
from A
right.
to Z.
Exactly.
And there's hey, you can actually do it this way.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing in the AV world. when you're building a rack or a system design, everyone has a different way of doing it.
That's right.
Whether you're a DJ and you're mixing 2 songs, every DJ will mix those 2 songs differently every single time.
Yep.
Whoever's designing a rack or a system design will do it differently. But at the end of the day, it's the result that matters.
Yeah.
You know, so it's funny when you look back at it. Again, back in my day, you know, but it's fun to think of all these little experiences and how it brings you to the present day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What about you, Hugo?
Yeah, back in my day.
We're all in our 20s. I already warned everybody.
Yeah.
We're all in our 20s. We're super young. It's okay.
You know what's funny about me is I've been with SFM, the distributor, for 2 years, close to 2 years now, actually. Yeah, 2 years. But I've been a salesperson for the past 23 years before joining SFM. So looking back at, you know, I mentioned Musique Technique, the woman who was booking the internship, she kind of liked me, but in a good way. Don't worry, I didn't do anything bad. So I was very good at school, and that particular school, I was top 3 in my class, very involved in the computer, as I told you, very knowledgeable on all the new softwares and stuff like that. So she found me a job even before I finished my last semester.
Lucky you.
So
wow.
I think the semester was finishing in May, and by mid-April, I was already working at a music store called Steve Music.
You worked at Steve's Music?
Yeah.
Steve's.
Yeah.
I didn't know he worked at Steve's Music.
You know,
I didn't know either.
I probably met you at Steve's without even knowing.
Probably.
What department did you work in?
I was working in the PA and DJ department, so
really,
maybe if you purchased your Pioneer around it,
I couldn't afford new equipment, so I come in, see what's happening, and go look used.
What a small world, though.
It's scary. I have another story.
World.
I might save it for another podcast, but I met an existing employee who's still here today at SFM before starting at SFM, and then I saw him at SFM and was like, "You were the guy who sold me my first pair of speakers." I'll save that story for another time.
Jesus.
I'm an MC. Like, I'm going to talk forever. So we'll let Hugo continue.
So I worked at Steve's Music in the PA department. This is another place where I learned a lot of stuff, especially around the wireless microphone. At the time, it was, it was not digital. It was still analog. I learned a lot about powered amps, microphones. Basically did my classes, completed my classes there, learning how to sell something to someone. And from there, I was working in the PA department, but I was still completely in love with recording and computer technology and recording technology. So I was spending a lot of time in the pro audio department where the audio interface were and all this shiny gear. And I started mixing at the same time, mixing as a DJ. So as opposed to you, Franco, I did not the events and gig. I went straight to the clubs. I worked in clubs. I had a gig at a restaurant for 18 years.
Wow.
So in parallel, I was working in the PA department. I was starting to DJ at the same time. But
sorry, was that because of Steve's that led you into DJing?
I started DJing just before joining.
Okay, gotcha.
Just before, funny enough, another little story there. I bought my first kit, 2 Newmark Axis 8 and a Newmark
Can't
mixer.
say that word.
I think it was a TM03 or something like that, from someone in my class because he didn't have enough money.
Really?
Yeah, he needed the money to pay for his class, actually. Anyways, that's a sad story. I bought my DJ equipment with my grants.
My God.
You see? You do what you got to do.
Which ended up being a very good move because I did a lot of money as a DJ.
Yeah.
It's a lucrative market, as you said. So anyways, after a year and a half at Steve's Music, that music store, someone from another local reseller who were exclusively selling Pro Tools HD, like the big Pro Tools system, which they use to record bands, mix for TV, mix for movie. That guy needed an assistant. And he kind of heard that I was pretty good with Pro Tools. And so he basically approached me and asked me if I wanted to be his assistant, which I did for another year and a half before he got fired. He got fired for health reasons. Basically, lost his job for health reasons. He had to leave, and I basically got his gig. And at the time, another big step in my paycheck, because it was very lucrative. At the time, back in 2004 or 5, Pro Tools HD was to mix in 5.1. If you compare it with Genelec speakers and everything, it could be up to $60,000-$70,000 for one workstation.
So that's hardware, software, the complete kit.
And we were integrating everything. I mean, we were selling everything. We were actually buying Genelec speakers from SFM at the time already. So Genelec or others, I mean.
So you'd come in and outfit the studio or the post-production room.
I could sell the whole studio, including the acoustic treatment and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
What was that back then? Oralex? Or?
Yeah, I was selling Oralex and that Canadian company.
Okay.
I
don't remember.
Sorry.
Even though we're in our 20s, we forget things sometimes. You know?
But so I worked at that company called CEV for another 17 years. But at one point, audio got democratized and computer processors were much more powerful. So the technology dropped in price. So basically, I was mentioning at first it was $70,000 to have a full-blown system. When 5 to 6, 7, 8 years later, it was around $12,000 because you could do so much more with a native system. When I say native, I mean you could do so much more with a processor. And it was about the time when Mac computers, which are, as you guys know, people are using Mac in that industry, especially in the post-production business.
Yeah.
So when Macs transitioned from PowerPC, Motorola processors to Intel, suddenly the power went up like this.
Wow.
So you could do so much more with a native system. The reason why these systems were so expensive is they were using DSP cards hooked up to the PCIe ports in a Mac. You could have up to 3 cards with 18 processors on it, and you could run, 150 plugins on it. No latency, literally less than a few samples of latency. It was very, very high-end stuff. But again, the native processor in the Intel Mac got so much powerful that you could do much more with a smaller system. So I was not making enough money anymore. So I was contemplating the idea of leaving and, working for somebody else. But the boss told me, you're very good at what you're doing in audio, but I think you have potential also to sell video editorial systems. So this is where I started to be interested in video, because still at the time a video editorial system was still very expensive.
Did you have any video editing experience prior to that, or you learned a lot through the job?
I learned a lot through the job, but the fact that I was basically selling Pro Tools system for audio to sound to picture, I kind of got to learn a lot about all these resolutions, frame rates, because in post-production, the thing you want to do is you want the audio and the video to be synced. If not, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So I got to learn a lot about all these different formats. I'm not specialist about cameras, but I'm very good with codecs in general. Mm-hmm. So this is where I learned a lot, and I became basically selling audio and video. So this is where I got a second tool in my toolbox. And I did another 10 years there. So I worked for 17 years at that specific reseller. And after 17 years in one place, you start contemplating the idea of leaving. And I got approached by a national reseller who was also an avid reseller, but they also were an Autodesk reseller. They're Annex Pro, they're based in BC, but I was working off Montreal here. So this is where I got another tool in my toolbox, which was everything VFX and gaming design. So all the desktop publishing softwares like Autodesk, 3D Max, or just Max, and all those pipelines, understanding about asset management and everything you need to basically create visual effects in a movie. So
Very cool.
I wouldn't say I'm a specialist about that, but I've sold many systems also. So I kind of get the complete workflow and pipeline, everything around a movie. I kind of understand the bits and pieces that go around it.
Nice.
And after 5 years, I basically lost my job. And I got approached by SFM, the distributor we're working for here, about 2 years ago. That's about me.
Amazing.
Yep.
Is there anything Hugo doesn't know?
I know. I was just gonna say.
That's impressive.
After getting into that journey, did you have a preference in terms of, or you consider yourself more an audio guy or more a video guy, or?
That's really funny because, I work in the technical department here, and all these guys are audio guys. I mean, I'm the only video professional I'm kind of the broadcast specialist. That's how they call me here. But I still consider myself an audio guy. But out of all the audio guy, I'm the one who knows the video. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But I'm more of an audio person still to that date. And that's funny because going from 23 years of being a salesperson or a technical salesperson, now I'm still selling gear. I mean, I'm still helping the salesmen here or the reps to sell, but I'm a lot more into technical these days, which I really like because at the end of my career, my sales director was telling me I was too technical.
Oh, wow.
Because I was really geeking out with the customers, but I was not talking that much about like, how much are you going to give me?
Right.
How do you see like the business and blah, blah. So I was more of okay, what tools are you using? What's your workflow? I want to understand it. So basically, I mean, the job I have right now I really like it.
Nice.
Yep.
It fits. It seems like it's right up your alley.
Yep.
That's amazing.
You see all this gear on this set here? I mean, we had so much fun building that. So
And no pressure if the video and the audio don't sync up perfectly, eh? No pressure.
it's going to sync, trust me.
I believe it. I believe it.
And Vince,
What about you,
what got
Vince?
you in the business?
Oh boy. Yeah, I think it was just a little sequence of events, a little bit like Franco and even yourself, Hugo. I think it's like that for a lot of us. I think it stemmed out from started off with a part-time job during CJEP, which a buddy of mine approached me to work at Future Shop. I always had a passion for like home theaters and stuff like that. And he came to see me. He's like, hey, they're looking for somebody for car audio, and you'd be also selling on the home theater side. So I said, I think that's great. I'm not much of a sales guy, but I love being technical and plugging things in. Since I was a kid, I always played with like analog old stuff. We didn't have a ton of cash, so I always had like really old mixers and stuff that was sometimes worked, sometimes didn't. Just, playing around with cables.
Strips not working.
Yeah, stuff like that, tube amps and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun. Anyway, so starting off at Future Shop was a lot of fun. The education was, I think back in the day, they used to say like McDonald's was like the first best job that you can get. You'd learn so much, and I don't know if it's like that today, allegedly, but Future Shop was a great company to work for. I learned a lot on the sales side, a lot on the technical side, and got to learn a little bit like you on the car audio side, just learning about impedances and stuff like that, and on the home theater side as well.
Were you installing car audio or just sales?
No, just selling. And on the home theater side, I would dabble into some side installations for customers. Sometimes they didn't want to go with their, back then was it wasn't Geek Squad, it was something else with Future Shop. But just getting a pulse too. I love getting a pulse with the customers, saying, like what type of applications they were getting into, some of the challenges, like wiring, pre-wiring. Like even back then I was doing like, wiring after the fact. So it was very challenging. And
Surface mount wiring.
yeah, I wouldn't go surface mount wiring, but okay, let's go through the basement and all kinds of stuff. It was quite challenging, but at a young age I got to kind of matured me, I would say. And that was
pulling cable through a house that's already built will humble you real quick.
Yeah, really quick.
Yeah. Really,
really quick. So that was a lot of fun. And I think, and then right after that, the same friend who worked at Future Shop left, and Brick started expanding across Canada, and came pulling me in when they started building the Kirkland Center in the West Island in Montreal. And I helped open the store again, working in the home theater department. That was a lot of fun. Still doing some installs on the side too. And I think why I enjoyed it so much as well is I kind of, maybe it was an excuse I was creating for myself, but it kind of still tied a little bit of the film side where I was recreating the theater experience inside a home. And that always appealed to me. And there's so many people that work behind the screen, behind the camera on a film production, from lighting to costume design to set design to everything. And recreating that in the home, I think, was super important for me. That's why I'm a little bit saddened today. Everybody's going for sound bars, but but I think it's really cool.
Do a full podcast on sound bars.
Just sound bars.
Yeah.
Just sound bars.
That's coming up.
Do you have a home theater system at home?
Yeah, many.
Many. Again, another episode.
Another episode.
On just home theaters.
Another episode. And even just the, I wrote a white paper back in the day on just the psychological aspect of having a home theater, a dedicated home theater space in the room, how it changes things, even just the dynamic and stuff. But again, that's another podcast.
Does your white paper talk about the wife acceptance factor?
Yes. The family acceptance. Yeah, well, that's a huge part of it. But so anyways, after the brick, basically, I went to a little bit outside the industry, in the telecom industry. And as soon as I actually left the telecom industry as a part-time job, obviously, and then I got kicked out a second time in college. And I really didn't know what I was going to do. And the timing was really good because it wasn't like months off. It was literally like a week off. And then I get a call. And to this day, no joke, I have no idea how I came across this company because, and I'll get to that, they call me up and they're like, hey, with all your experience on the home theater side, specifically Future Shop and the brick, they saw that. They're like, we really want a counter guy in distribution for AV. I'm like, fantastic. So I got the job, went for the interview, got the job. And I remember the first week, they're just like, okay, I want you to...
What was that company? Like, what were they specialized in?
So they're a low voltage distributor.
And can you define low voltage? Because I'm not sure.
Anything that's not electrical. Okay. So anything that's 12 volts, 24 volts, and all that stuff.
Like doorbells.
Like, networking.
Yeah, doorbells, networking. Security cameras, access control, fire, and stuff like that.
Intrusion,
exactly. Intrusion, CCTV and AV, especially on the 70 volt side and all that stuff. And I remember the first week, they're like, okay, I want you to just clean the shelves. I want you to remove the products off the shelves, clean the shelves. And as you're cleaning the shelves, open up the boxes and learn the products. And I think that was fantastic. And I still remember after the first week, I'm like, what the hell do these guys do? I didn't know what a distributor was. And I was like, I still don't know what the hierarchy was, what the process was. Like, what's a dealer? I don't know what a dealer is. I don't know what an end user was. I didn't know what a distributor, what the role of a distributor was. And that too got me to learn a lot throughout the years. And even there, I started helping dealers do installs that are like, had a little bit more difficulty on the AV space. So they'd ask me to come on site. And I love that because, again, I like having a pulse to the industry and see what was working, what was not working.
Yeah, and seeing firsthand what the challenges are. And
you basically helped low voltage resellers or like a company specialized in security cameras or
integration. Yeah, exactly.
Fire alarm.
Yeah.
Selling AV products.
Yeah, it was more like guys who were already getting into the home and were getting asked to expand on some of their solution.
Yep.
Hey, you're doing my speakers. Can you also do my CCTV or the home theater? Or
Exactly. So that was fantastic. And I would kind of educate them and kind of help expand their business. So that was a little entrepreneur in me as well, that I loved kind of helping grow people's businesses into areas where they're like, why are you giving yourself limits? And even back then, the AV industry, you're making a lot more money, a lot more margin just in cables. I mean, we're talking back into analog cables. It was components. When we're getting into HD, you're selling separate video cables, separate audio cables, and just on cables, you were making pretty good money.
Yep.
So that was a lot of fun.
Which could be another topic too.
That too.
Just cables.
The hype about the cables, the
Just
very
cables.
expensive cables.
And what could you do over Cat 6?
Even just HDMI cables,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's a whole other.
Yeah.
So anyway, I started off from counter sales all the way up to inside sales into system design because I was a lot less salesy, like you, and a lot more technical. But and then later on became managing the team, leading the team in Canada for the system design team.
Very
That was
cool.
a ton of fun. And then SFM was looking for somebody who was a bit of a hybrid, technical marketing, and kind of help take more technical terms and convert into easy digestible type of marketable applications and stuff like that, which is so much fun. So,
Did you apply for the job or they called you?
funny enough, I think it was a little bit of both, from what I understood. Actually, I first applied for a brand management position.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't get it.
So Franco said no.
Franco said no.
It was not
I'm
me.
just kidding.
It was not me.
At first,
Accepted you on the spot.
yeah.
Without even interviewing me.
At first, I think they were looking for somebody a little less technical. Maybe I was a little bit too technical, but because of my history in making, actually rewinding, I actually started my video production company in 2013 on the side, which I actually closed very recently. But I actually had a film production company because I had some older friends that were still in the film business. They're like, "Hey, would you mind producing and directing some films for me?" And I'm like, that'd be fantastic. And that was a lot of fun and very humbling as well.
Yeah.
Because in the micro, not the indie or the low budget, but when we're talking about micro budget type of productions where you're basically wearing multiple hats, you get to learn a lot of roles.
You see everything. Yeah.
You see everything and you're doing hands-on. Again, we're talking about experience. Doing is the most important thing. Planning is also great, but doing and getting your hands dirty, making mistakes,
Making
and
those
doing,
mistakes are important.
not pressing record, that all makes that all makes a huge difference. And I learned, and then as the years were going on and the projects were getting a little bit bigger, I actually started building up a team. That too was very important for me to start learning how to have confidence in other individuals, their creativity, learning how those guys who are specialists and professionals in their craft, how they think, what they can bring to the table. And that applied a lot to system design, working with dealers. And again, you brought it up before, like there's never, especially when you're doing a design, there's never one perfect design. You can take that one problem and give it to all three of us, and we come up with 3 different solutions. At the end, customer is always happy, but there's always 3 different ways of doing it. And I always say 2 + 2 = 4, but so is 3 + 1.
Mm-hmm.
You're always getting to
That's
the
a
end
good
of
way
it.
of saying it, yeah.
So that's basically it. So I think SFM, from what I understand, is they kind of like that, the video aspect and then the technical side, and merging both together. So
And here we are today.
here we are today
Producing our first
podcast.
Maybe we should, I know, I don't know how long we've been talking, but maybe we should just talk about the inception of this podcast, like how
we got the idea and all that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we had gone for lunch. It was probably the first lunch us 3 had ever gone on.
Just with the reseller, yep.
Exactly.
Yes.
We were with a reseller too. And again, all different parts of the business, right? The marketing side, the brand management side, the technical side. And we were talking at lunch, and we started talking about, correct me if I'm wrong again, I don't know if it was CCTV, security camera.
Yes.
Then we started talking about routers and access points and networking. I mean, you guys, your networking.
DHCP, VLAN.
Yeah, exactly. And your networking chops are definitely better than mine. I mean, I have some basic knowledge.
Vince was saying that he has a dedicated VLAN just for Chinese stuff.
Yeah, IoT stuff. And I was like, what is that? We were learning from each other. And I think by the end of that conversation, people must have been looking at us. It was a small restaurant. Like, what are these guys talking about? And we're just going on and on and on. And I think at the end of the conversation, that's when we realized, hey, this is a really good content. Like, we were just talking, we're learning from each other.
Yeah.
And most importantly, it was a safe space. And I think that's what this podcast needs to be.
Yeah.
It's being vulnerable. And okay, Franco doesn't know a lot about video or networking,
Yeah.
but he knows a hell of a lot about the DJ product, the consumer side of things, the entrepreneurship side, supply chain side of running that type of business in Canada. And I want to learn from gentlemen like you two, you know, that have more of those technical abilities compared to myself. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun going back and forth and benefiting from our strengths and weaknesses.
Well, don't sell yourself short, because I think I found that lunch super insightful, because even though, I mean, you know quite a bit in networking as well, but what I found really interesting is that all three of us, I think we knew a lot about the topic, but even so, I still learned stuff that I didn't know from you and yourself, and we're always learning. That we're constantly evolving, and it's a very fast-paced industry. Everything is constantly moving, so
and I think
really cool.
You know, from our stories, we all made mistakes. We all got here at the end of the day, and that's what these conversations are going to be about. Is let's ask those questions.
Yeah.
Let's not be scared to make mistakes, and hopefully the viewers as well will be asking lots of questions, and we'll jump into it, and we're not scared to look into it and learn from each other.
Yeah. If you have anything that you guys want us to talk about specifically, feel free to drop that in the comments below. And we'll be more than happy to look at it and explore all these topics. We really want to hear from everybody out there.
And I got to say that, I mean, like and subscribe, you guys. I mean, this is
we almost forgot the most important part.
Yeah.
This is what will be driving this podcast going forward.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us on Behind the Rack. We hope you picked up something new, maybe had a laugh, or at least nodded along with one of our rants. If you enjoyed today's episode, again, hit that follow, share it with a colleague or a fellow AV guy, and help us spread the word. We'll be back with more stories, insights, and conversations from the worlds of pro audio, broadcast, live sound, and systems. So until then, keep the curiosity alive, and we'll catch you the next time Behind the Rack.
I'll be your love, I'll be your sunshine, I'll be your love, I'll be your sunshine.